Start recording. Cool. All right, so we are recording.
Okay, great.
Um,
So you started off with the preamble saying you wanted like a big tent and to try to be as welcoming to people with other opinions as possible.
yeah, without sacrificing the truth, but I so basically an example of that would be like I'm not going to be like saying, "Oh, anyone who voted for Trump is an idiot and I don't want to be friends with them." It's more so
Sure,
like,
sure, sure, sure.
you know what I mean? It's more so like
Right, but
I want to try to reach people and even people that I
and
disagree
I
with.
I want to persuade people too. But the problem with the whole like big tent theory of politics, right, is Democrats say that we want a tent big enough for everybody, from Bernie Sanders to some other politician they named, and
Yeah.
it's like that political identity does not exist. That spectrum is far too wide. Like you're a visual person,
it's
you
it's not
understand that
about
light
getting
is
it's not about
on a
getting
spectrum.
everyone. Hang on, let me interrupt. It's not about getting everyone. It's about casting as wide a net to catch as many fish as possible because you don't know which fish you're going to catch, but you're going to still try to catch whatever you can.
I understand. I'm just more apprehensive about that because the biggest issue,
You don't want
right,
to
is
censor
that,
yourself.
well, it's not that, well, I will not censor myself for anything.
I'm just
I
I'm
will
just
be
asking
asking
if
people.
that's the concern
Well,
is
no,
all.
that's not the thing. It's that I don't want to kind of compromise. Where if somebody was, I'm going to go to the very extreme example, right off the bat. We're gonna break Godwin's law within the first 2 minutes here. If somebody came up to me and was like, "I'm an avowed neo-Nazi," you know, and but I want to vote for Zoran Mondani for reasons that I cannot fathom, right? But for some reason
Oh,
or
that
another, a
that they're that,
neo-Nazi said,
on both sides at the
yeah,
same time.
right. But like if a neo-Nazi said like I want to vote for Zoran Mondani for insert reason here, I'd be like, no, we don't want your kind around here. Get out.
Yeah, I'll challenge you on that. Um, but before I do,
Okay.
as far as audio, it sounds like you're still kind of getting all set up and everything, but I'm getting a lot of
No, I just had
room.
my headphones on.
Okay, I'm getting a lot of room noise from your end. Like, any chance that you could maybe be closer to the mic, or
The mic is literally like an inch from my face, dude.
I'm
Like not
wondering if
even.
it might just be compression from like the internet connection because it sounds not the best. Are you sure you have the right mic selected, or are you possibly on like a
It's the
webcam mic?
only mic on my headphones, dude.
It's a headphone mic. Okay, a headphone mic will that explains it. Okay, okay, then but anyway,
It's the only mic that I've got.
well, sometimes no. I mean, like I have a dinky webcam here that I was using for the channel before, and if I accidentally have that selected, I'm gonna sound a lot worse than like
Yeah, no,
Fi-Fi.
I've only got my headphones
Okay,
that have the like a drop down mic
then
on them.
no big deal. We're gonna just keep going. So
All right, cool.
I um I first off, I've gotten this far in my life specifically, and not saying that like I have it right and you have it wrong because of
Sure,
just
sure,
different
sure.
places
Yeah,
that we're in,
just
but I
yeah.
attribute a lot of my successfulness in all these different areas of my life because I know how to reach people, I know how to talk to people, and I try to be charitable. Like all of these things that I'm saying apply here, they work in other
And
places, right? Like I think that
they do. They genuinely do. I agree with you, but to sort of head off the main point of the discussion at the past, right? We're going to be talking today about this poor
yeah,
man who was murdered
right.
by government agents. And when you and I and anybody with a rational mind and a functioning pair of eyes looks at that and goes, he was helping a woman get off the ground and he was assaulted and he was murdered in cold blood. When we look at that, and that's the conclusion we draw, and other people look at that and say, no, the real victims here are the government agents. I'm not interested in that opinion because that is just not
Oh,
compliant
I
with
feel that.
objective reality.
I feel that, and I have other sort of examples like that where I feel the same way. I brought this up recently because I was I don't know if I was talking to you or the group with you about this, but like
Okay.
watching a video, this woman was making some kind of an argument, and then part of her argument was she referenced the Bible. She was like, First Corinthians says blah blah blah, and that's when I was just like, I just checked out. I'm like, okay, I thought that I was going to engage with this, but like as soon as you start quoting Bible verses as part of your argument, then I know that there is no argument. Like that's not an
Right,
argument. That's
because here's the thing: if we lived in Saudi Arabia or Iran or something else, I'm not saying it's great, but there would at least be a shred of an argument there because these are not secular countries; these are theocracies where religion has a lot more societal impact, right?
Well, if you're
But
describing
here,
something, you could mention religion because religion has an impact on people and ways of thinking. If you're describing society, religion is part of that description. That I don't have a problem with. But if you're trying to get at the truth or what is moral or describe, human psychology, like
right? No, I agree with that,
right. And so if
in
someone is using a religious text, a personal religious belief as an argument for something that should be applied in the world, that's not an argument. That's basically saying we should do it this way because I said so. And I have
right,
no
and
patience for that. I won't engage with that
I
because
agree with you.
you have to start by basically demonstrating that your religious belief is more reasonable than the alternative.
Right,
If you don't
you
start
have to
there,
you have
then
to
we don't
prove
we you don't get to go to the next thing.
I agree.
Okay, so I sympathize with with that feeling of like, look, if you're gonna be a wacko in other ways, I don't want you part of this team. But
Yes.
I think we should be a little bit more pragmatic. I would just challenge you to like keep open the idea of like maybe I have to just take whatever votes I can get, even if we don't agree on everything. But I don't
And
think
here's the thing on specific issues, right? So if we look at Congress, right? I'm more in your opinion when it comes to people who are already in power. So like let's pretend that I'm a senator, right? Um, I am willing to work with Republicans to cut government spending, asterisks, in regards to the Pentagon and the military budget and all these bloated government contracts, right?
right,
I
right,
am not willing to compromise or work with Republicans on cutting government spending insofar as Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security,
yeah,
et cetera, et cetera.
yeah, that makes sense.
So once someone is already in power, you can go and you can get you can okay, well, I'll scratch your back, you scratch mine, one hand washes the other kind of thing. You vote for my bill, I'll vote for yours. Oh, well, I don't really like
Play
this
ball
one
to
little
to
part
to play
where it's like
ball.
80% good. Yes, I'm fine with that, but when we are talking building broad coalitions of movements and an ideological foundation upon which to build a worldview and things like that, there has to be some level of ideological purity and some level of ideological consistency. Is it going to be perfect? No. And I acknowledge that because we don't live in a perfect world. But again, to go back to the neo Nazi who loves Zoran Mamdani, I don't want you anywhere near my leftist party. Even if you support the politician that I support, I find, 95% of your other ideas morally disgusting. I view you as a cancer on society. So just because you have one good idea here or there does not make you a desirable member of our club, for lack of a better phrase.
I just think if someone can be reformed, then
Yes,
it's
rapport
better.
is good. If someone says,
Right,
hey, look, I've had these other ideas.
right, but you don't know if that's gonna happen unless you start by leaving the door open for them. I'm not saying you
I,
have to. I'm not saying that you have to like bend over backwards for people, or that you should like play ball in the sense of like, well, you're proposing this like awful thing, and you know what? You've been so good with the other stuff. I'll let you have it. No, no, no. Stand by your deals. Like, still on every case, like, does this make sense or not? I'm just saying when you're talking about concepts, you should be mindful that there are people that might just need to hear it in a different way than they've heard it before, and also that there are fence sitters that are watching and listening that are still kind of making up their mind even if they don't know it. And so, I'm there's gonna be some language in this conversation and others where I'm going to say something as a matter of fact with a little bit of acid in my voice.
That's fine.
in my
I'm
speech,
cool with
but
that.
but the goal, the hope, what I would like to do is that this is a conversation, or I'm going to say things where even someone that otherwise disagrees with me can at least see that I am genuine, that I am trying to get to the truth and
Right,
trying to do good.
and that's something that I feel genuinely from people who are conservative, for whatever conservatism actually does exist in this country anymore. From people who are leftists, from anybody in anywhere between on the political spectrum, as seeking objective, beneficial truths, I feel is morally admirable.
Yeah.
Um, so that is something to be lauded, regardless of where you stand on the political spectrum.
Yeah.
But what you're talking about is something that I genuinely, I only know one example of this working. To be fair, it's a really cool example. It's a really awesome example.
Example of
There's a
what?
guy of like bringing people who you would find, morally repugnant or repulsive, meeting these people and actively, changing their worldview. So the only example that I know that I can like verify that I've heard about before was this guy Daryl Davis, who was a black man who single-handedly converted over 200 KKK members to get rid of their hoods.
Whoa. That's
Like
interesting.
he went and he actively befriended Klansmen as a black man.
That's I you got to link me. That sounds really interesting. Like that's motivating. That's really like encouraging to hear. I mean, I know it's a rarity,
Right,
but like
that is heartening.
that's like
Right. So
that's
that's
like
an
as
example that
extreme as
I
it gets
know.
too. That's not just like a little disagreement. That's like I turned your worldview around. Like we should.
Yes, and so that's admirable. But
Yeah, yeah.
like you said, that's a rarity. This is the only example
I
of that
know,
that
I
I
know.
know.
But listen, no, it's not as much of a rarity as you might think. Listen, I do want to get to the main topic, and the main topic is Peretti and this recent stuff going on. But this preamble, right? This first part of our conversation
Mm-hmm.
kind of applies and is like relevant to like all the conversations that I want to have with you on this channel. So like, it's just about like
And
how do we do better? How do we do better as interlocutors, as people, and how do we reach as many people as possible? Because that's the only reason to get on camera. Well,
right,
besides I like talking to you.
before we get into the right, thank you. And before we kind of dive into the meat of potatoes here,
Yeah, sure.
I do want to say thank you for for valuing my thoughts and opinions. It's
Yeah, man.
because I try to be well informed. To what degree that functions is a different matter.
Look,
But I genuinely try to have as holistic a picture, and I do have my own perspective, and I do have my own biases. I'm not going to try to pretend
yeah,
that I don't,
yeah,
but
we all do.
I have these perspectives and biases because I genuinely believe that like this is the correct position to have. I
Right.
genuinely believe that universal healthcare is the correct position because it saves everybody money. It
X, Y,
lowers
and
the
Z.
death rate.
Yeah, yeah.
There's a whole list of reasons why, from a variety of perspectives, this is a better option than the system we have in place now. And so that's why I make the arguments that I make for that.
Yeah.
And it's nice, and I really do genuinely appreciate that you value my thoughts and my input on whatever the discussion of the day is.
Of course, man.
I just
I
wanted
feel
I
like
just
we've
wanted to
had.
throw that out.
I appreciate that, and like I'm happy to be able to like validate that because I have this feeling oftentimes where I'm like I feel a little bit alone. And I feel like I understand things, and let me get like this out. Let me really just have the floor for a second because this is
Of
huge.
course. Okay.
Y'all have heard me say before, and the joke is, and the joke, is partially the truth. Is like I have a big ego, and Matt's always right, and blah blah blah. And yeah, I know, ha ha ha. And yes, I do have an ego. Like I won't deny that. But the thing is, that comes from somewhere. That comes no. Listen, really listen, and put and not just to you, to anyone that's listening to this, particularly people that know me, because people that don't know me, this is gonna have no context.
Yeah.
But for a long time, I have worn the hat of the the would-be philosopher and the curious mind and the debater and the questioner. And I've done a lot of, not like scholarly research where I'm like going to institutions and getting an education. This is all like, I guess you would say, like self-taught, like just internet sleuthing and stuff like that. But I have put a lot of energy and concern into understanding where there's disagreements and to try to get at the truth there. I've done a lot of work, a lot of mental diligence in doing that, and I feel like I've reached a point where I'm pretty well informed on different things. And so besides just that, I'm aware of different topics and I've learned a lot on different things. It's also, over the years, I have tried to think more clearly about things and be more precise with like my thinking and with my words, my arguing, and like I love talking about these high level topics. And so like this is my bread and butter. Like, this isn't me just being like I have strong opinions. It's like I have strong opinions because they're informed, and also I am putting myself out there. If somebody disagrees with me on something, if somebody thinks that they know better on something that I'm saying, I am all ears. I am willing to have a discussion and to try to let myself be proven wrong if I'm wrong. The important thing is the truth. The important thing is not me being right or looking right. I mean, I'd like to be right because I'd like to know what the truth is. So those are kind of synonymous, but it's not about looking right. I would hope that if I am shown to be wrong and that I can recognize that I'm wrong, that I will admit that I was wrong and I will adopt the truth so far as I can ascertain it. So that's my whole thing. Like, I know I have a big ego, but like it's coming from a place where it's like I want to know what the truth is and I want to help other people come to that truth. And if I'm wrong, I would like to be proven right. That's why I am the way that I am. And maybe it's like anal, maybe it's a little bit like what's the word, on the spectrum, but like I
little autistic.
a little autistic. Yeah. I need the truth. I don't care how awkward it makes it. But like but that's where I come from.
Is a noble goal. I feel whether or not you're autistic or have any other sort of
I'm at least something.
Well, no. What's the phrase that everyone uses now? Neurospicy is what people call it.
I like that.
It's like I kind of hate that, honestly, because I feel it's like really really childish and infantile. But
it tickled my brain for a second. I don't think I would like repeat it much, but so
yeah, once or twice, it's whatever.
It's novel. All right,
so I will say that my favorite takeaway from that little soapbox thing was, and this is again me poking a little bit of fun at you, is basically you just going, debate me, bro.
Yeah. It's like your thing is lifting. It's like you like to push yourself. You like to maybe like have someone to compete against, like that you can cut your teeth on, right? And for me, that's like me, and like and me. It's like that's how I am with like debating. You know what I mean? Like I want to make sure that everything out of my mouth is well thought out, and that I'm not going to say something that I'll regret. And that I'm being honest both like to myself and to the other person, Yeah. So let's talk about, now with all that out of the way, preamble.
Yeah.
Let's talk about
all the appetizers.
Yeah. Well, now I'm ready for something. I can't even. I caught myself being like, the topic today is saddening.
It's very somber. It is.
Yeah.
It is I shouldn't. We shouldn't.
We're getting into a rich. We're going to be talking about some rich things, right? Like some very important discussions that it's going to be cathartic in a way for both of us, right? But the immediate topic right now is not great. So as of today,
it's a very dark and sobering situation.
Yeah. So it's January 26th. 2026, and I think it was like a day or two ago. I might get dates wrong, but I'm just trying to generally contextualize
in
this.
the very near past.
Within the past week,
within the past week.
Another another U.S. citizen was gunned down by federal agents. Um,
Hmm.
Before that, it was Renee Nicole Good, and now this was Alex Pretti. Um, I mean, we might pull up. Yeah, I had a video of from Philip DeFranco of Alex Pretti. It's like like first off, the fact that these were
Oh,
so close to each other.
yeah,
Like I was
yes,
already thinking like I kind of want to like say something about the situation with Renee Good, and then like before I even had a chance to really like just grow a pair and do it, this happened, and I'm like, so two in like a week.
yeah. But Matt, I really do need to cut you off, and I
Go
apologize
ahead,
for
go ahead,
that.
go ahead. What?
Shout out Secular Talk for just putting out a video.
Yeah.
Breaking news: as of 38 minutes ago,
Oh,
Trump has fired Greg Bovino,
Greg Bavino. So is that I'm
the
flaking on
guy
the.
whose face looks like a holiday ham.
Was that the guy that was leading
He's like
ICE?
the ICE guy, like the ICE officer.
Right? Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, the guy who yeah, he's fired. He's out, gone.
So why? That's surprising.
Because he's a.
Well, I know why I don't want
Okay.
him around, but
I,
why did Trump fire
my
him?
first, well, yes. So
Yeah, like,
this
did
is
you
the
not
funny
understand
thing,
what I meant
right?
by that?
Um, I no. I know what you did, but like, you know how sometimes you'll hear something and then your brain immediately kind of like leapfrogs itself,
Yeah, yeah.
where you're like, oh, this,
We're
oh, and you're like,
here.
wait, no, back it up.
Are you watching
Um,
this?
so my immediate theory on this. I'm not watching. I just saw the thumbnail, but I will watch this as soon as we're done because I want to give this, you know, like as much of my attention
No, 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 no. Hang on.
because I,
Pause
was-
for
I
a
was
second.
trying to
No, no,
find.
because this is a technical thing. Like, because I'm recording to my desktop so that I'll just, when we're done, I'll upload this to my account. But I don't think I have anything going to you unless I'm sharing my screen or
No, for
something.
you, it just says no. It just says EOS webcam utility. That's it.
Okay. Oh, you know I can
I
do
don't
that.
see you streaming anything.
You know I can do that. I can share my screen. I just realized. So at least you can see me. You
Yeah,
can follow
that
along.
guy. That guy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's even
Yes,
better.
I can see.
Okay, cool. So you were saying.
Yeah, that guy.
Yeah.
He's gone. Yeah, he's out.
I'm amazed. But what was his reasoning for it? Because I don't see why he would do that.
Why Trump would want him out. So
Right.
my immediate theory, right, is Trump is like a wannabe strongman, proto-fascist dictator kind of figure, right?
Yeah.
And the problem with Greg Bovino is that he was drawing a lot of obvious fire, a lot of obvious criticism to the tactics that are being implemented right now. If you want to seize power, if you want to go and, consolidate influence, into yourself, you can't go and have just these naked power grabs because then everyone sees what's
Sure.
going on.
You have to
And
make
then
it
you
look like
get
you're at least trying to do it above board.
right. And so this is why for years leading up to the Iraq War, we were propagandized by the Bush administration, by George W. Bush, Dick Cheney lying to us constantly, saying, "Oh, Saddam has weapons of mass destruction. The safety of Americans is imminently at risk." And there was years of propaganda buildup, so that when they went and they said, we're going to use the authorization for the use of military force, and we're going to single-handedly implement this offensive war, everyone was like, "Oh yeah, sure," because we've been hearing forever and ever that like these are the bad guys, they're putting our lives in danger. Nobody here is thinking that Mr. It's Peretti. What's his last name?
Pretti. P R
Yeah. So
P R E
nobody
T T
believes that
I.
this man. So nobody believes that anyone I would argue with half a functioning brain cell would perceive Mr. Pretti as a threat to those around him because this man was
Right.
literally a nurse working for the VA and was helping a woman,
Yeah.
as he was, ruthlessly murdered by the government.
Yeah.
And
There's no way to sell that he was actually a
we
threat
have
or
not
whatever.
been propagandized. Yeah, there's no way to propagandize. Renee Good, she was a mother who had just dropped off or was in the process of dropping off, like her 6-year-old daughter
Oh, I have comments
at
about
school.
that
And her
too.
last words before, right, and her last words before she was murdered were, "I'm not mad at you."
Yeah.
A mother to a young child whose last words are, "I'm not mad at you," is heartbreaking from any angle.
Yeah.
There is no way to spin this where you can have
They
sympathy
they
for the
still they still
thugs
did though.
that killed these people.
They
And
still
Greg Bovino, right? But Greg Bovino is the face of that organization
yeah.
right now, and because he and his goons are so incompetent and just have such a naked bloodlust, they gotta go. You can't be doing this kind of stuff without some level of societal support behind you.
Yeah,
One of the major reasons that
Trump
the
is
Bolsheviks and
realizing.
Hitler and everything were able to, yeah,
Yeah, Trump is
they
realizing
were
that
able to wrest power
there's
was because
this
there was such a
backlash.
high level of socioeconomic strife.
I don't know if there's much of
Yeah,
a. There
there's
might be
no
a bit of a
groundwork
delay.
in place. There's no support network in place.
Yeah, yeah.
There's a little bit, yeah. The delay was not as bad when you didn't have the video on.
Yeah, it might
So
possibly be a little bit of
maybe
that. Should I
turn the
just
video off,
cancel
the stream off.
cancel sharing? Yeah. Okay, I'll cancel sharing.
Yeah,
So,
cancel sharing. If you need to pull something up, we can do a quick
well,
section on that.
I am
But yeah,
recording
there's
this,
no
but yeah,
societal support network for these goons in place. Yeah, but there's no way to have, and like you said, were there people like you mentioned one of our friends who I will leave because it's the same one that when you told me you were talking to the guy, it's the same one that I'm thinking of.
yeah,
JL.
yeah, no, I don't want to go into
Okay,
like stuff like private
right, but
conversations.
I'll leave their name out of it again because I don't wanna
Yeah, we're just talking in general terms.
publicly disparage. Right, but when you were saying, oh, I know one of our friends who says that this man, had a criminal history, et cetera, et cetera. Will there be a small percentage of the population, 5% maybe upwards of 10%, who, are so thoroughly, in that pipeline that, if Trump said that the sky was, orange, they believe him? Yes, there's a certain percentage of people who will immediately, bow their heads and say, "Yes, Daddy Trump, of course that's the case." But you can't overthrow democracy. You can't have a societal revolution and consolidate power unto yourself
Yeah.
with
So
10% of the population.
yeah.
Maybe with 30%, maybe with 40%. Definitely not with 10%.
He's losing support way too fast. Like I kind of figured he was going to lose
Yes.
support no matter what happened because it's like if someone is saying something stupid, don't interrupt them. You know what I mean? Like let them dig their own hole. Not that we would willingly let anyone with a right mind would allow this to happen if they could prevent it, but certainly we can tell that like anything that he does is going to just not be popular as long as like the truth comes out. The thing that's really interesting here is that like this sort of thing would not have fallen this way if this was like 20 years ago, maybe. Like today, everyone has a high definition camera in their pocket. That was not the case, half a generation ago. So like, we something like this happens and it's captured by like 5 different angles, and there's no more like, oh, it's a grainy picture, you can kind of interpret anything from that. No, I mean, you still would need to have like a trial and experts that analyze the video and make arguments. And like, I'm not claiming to be that, but for for the most part, you're pretty certain that you can tell what's happening, and you can know if it's right or wrong. And even if there's that little bit that isn't sure, you certainly shouldn't be seeing from the administration them default taking the side of the ones who fired the gun. That, like, if they're going to say
Yes,
anything, it would have
yeah.
to, it should at least be after a trial where they're saying, like, yep, looks like we got him guilty. That'd be one thing, but they're not even doing that. Now,
So here's sort of
go
like I
ahead.
mentioned before when we were talking. Um, there's sort of a two-pronged thing here. One is the punishment must fit the crime. Um,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
you mentioned that the same person had said, "Oh, well, he was a criminal. He had a criminal record."
Yeah, well, that's
Well, A, at
certainly
the
what
time
people
he was
online are
not
using to
committing
justify
any
it.
crimes. Right, but at the time he was not committing any crimes. And B,
Hmm.
you want to know who else has a criminal record and is a convicted felon?
Our president.
Trump. Can I shoot him?
Yeah.
Can I go and shoot him?
It's all of these
No,
it's
I
all of
can't
these bad
because
arguments.
it's astounding to me the mental laziness that is rampant everywhere. Well,
Yeah.
not everywhere, but almost everywhere.
Well, enough that it's a problem.
And
It's not a pocket that you can kind of ignore. It's enough
yes,
of the country that we don't have Congress. You know what I mean? Like, just things are falling apart every day.
right, because the
Hey, hot fuzz.
yeah, Congress has no dick.
So,
Our congressmen and our senators are a bunch of ballless cowards.
let me just cover what I understand about these two situations, because we're talking in general terms, and, like, if someone is watching this video, they've probably seen everything of the other two and probably already have their opinion as well. But
Or
I
in the
just want
far
to
future, you've read about this in a textbook. Hello, 2040.
40/40.
No,
Anyway.
I said, or if they're not hearing this, in the immediate aftermath, you've read about it in a textbook. Hello,
Yeah,
if you're from
right.
2040 or beyond.
Yeah, seriously. So with
Joe knows the apocalypse.
yeah, how's it going? Is YouTube's left yet still, huh? Wow, interesting. Um, with Renee Good, because also wasn't there was two other shootings before this that weren't as black and white like this, but they were.
Let me, so let me,
I thought
Minneapolis.
that I thought that I was hearing about that, but I didn't hear about them when
Oh
they
God,
happened.
the first thing I see when I type in is Minneapolis shooting. The first suggestion is Minneapolis shooting today. Oh,
Yeah,
oh
we're
no.
gonna come back tomorrow and be like, okay, who got shot today? It really feels like that. It's sick. It's
We're so
absolutely disgusting. Okay, we don't have to. I didn't know if you
okay.
knew off of hand of, like,
Um,
what came before this, but let me just go into
no.
what I know, and then if there's something where you're like, oh, you forgot to mention this, jump in. But I think with the delay, we should really, like, pass the floor, like, a little bit more deliberately rather than back and forth interjection, just for technical reasons. So with
Yeah.
Renee Nicole Good, right? My understanding was, yeah, she was either on her way to
Mhm.
daycare or back from day. I think she was coming back from, I don't know, but she didn't have her child in the car, I don't think. So she was
I think she
driving.
dropped off her child.
Yeah, she was driving back or driving there or whatever, and she came across ICE activity, and she involved herself. We're just going to talk in plain terms. There's no, like, good or bad or anything here at this point in the conversation, but she involved herself, and she
Yeah,
was, I think she,
we will try to be as morally neutral.
yeah, neutral at this point, just talking about the facts as I understand them. I don't have every detail, but she involved herself. I think she was blocking off the road to obstruct ICE, and to, basically what most people have been doing is try to, like, draw attention so that people can be aware of what's going on, and take measures. So, and she, I believe, was trying to, when everything really went down, she was, like, trying to wave on people who were coming, and ICE agents got out of the car and started approaching her car, and they were trying to get her to. I think it was a combination of trying to get her to leave, trying to get her out of the car, and the agent that did end up shooting her was circling her car and recording license plate, recording her, I believe, wife, if I have that correctly. And okay, so when everything went down, those couple seconds where everything was happening, he was recording her car with his phone. He was walking counterclockwise around her car, and he was in front of it, pointing the camera at her at the time that she was backing up. Now, she was backing up because another agent immediately at her driver's side door was trying to get into the car. Her wife, who was on the other side of the car, saw that they were trying to get in, and she said, drive, baby, drive. Now, I'm not going to put any kind of inflections on that here. I'm not going to do an impersonation, but it's important to note that that's a line that you have some number of people saying that it was a call for her to run over the agent, and you have another group of people saying that it was direction for her to leave, to drive away. Now, I'm not going to go into like the numbers of which, but that's two interpretations that I've heard. Now, I believe that she was being instructed by her wife to drive away, especially based on how the intonation of her wife's voice, and also just the situation. I don't think that was an instruction like run over an agent, but we're getting into like my opinions about it, right? So she backed up when the agent on her driver's side door was trying to get in. She backed up, and from the agent with the gun, from his perspective, you can see from the footage a clear shot of her cutting the wheel to her right, which would have been to drive down the street, which she ended up doing, cutting the wheel away to the right while the agent with the gun was, I would say, on the front left corner of her car. Front driver's side corner. So partially in front, partially next to. And it was in that moment that, he was already pulling out his gun, and he fired into the car, which they're instructed not to do, as I understand. They're not even supposed to be putting themselves in front of a car, and they're certainly not supposed to fire into a car. And he had his gun out very quickly. We're going into opinion, so I'm going to just say the facts now, which is he fired enough from the front of the vehicle for the first shot to go through the front windshield on the driver's side, close to the corner. And then as the car turned and went by him, I believe it bumped into him. Like, it was close enough that he made contact with it. His feet were like away from the car. And he had like one hand on the hood or on the corner. And as it was going past, he fired two more shots into the driver's side window. And she was at least incapacitated immediately. And I believe her foot must have been on the gas pedal, because the car continued accelerating down the street until it hit another car. And then they obstructed, her receiving help and all that. But so the important things here to me in that case was that I believe you can make the case that he pulled out his gun faster and fired it sooner, more readily than what I believe a reasonable person in that circumstance would have done, knowing what he knew at that time, knowing how fast the vehicle was moving, where she was pointing, what she was doing before that, what her possible intent was. I don't think anyone in that situation would have assumed that her intent was to run over agents. If she wanted to do that, she would have done that. That's not that hard to surmise. So the people who are saying that she deserved it, and that's basically what this comes down to in that case. Well, kind of in both these cases. People on the right are arguing...
I'm not... That's...
Yeah. People on the right are arguing that she created the situation and that he responded with just force, like he had justification to use lethal force to prevent his own bodily harm or the harm of others. And the people, everyone else is arguing that he was not in any danger, as evidenced by the fact that he didn't get hurt, and firing his gun into the car had nothing to do with the fact that he didn't get hurt. Like, he fired into the car, and then the car, with her not actively driving it, right? Like, whatever the last thing she was doing when she got shot, that's what was happening. Like, her foot was on the pedal already, so the car continued to go down the street. The wheel was already turned in a particular direction, and so everyone drives. You know how a car works, right? When the wheel is cut, it'll continue to turn, and unless you stop it, the car will try to straighten out. And that's exactly what happened. The car turned down the road and then went straight down the road until it hit another car. So him firing into the car and incapacitating her made no difference to what the car was going to do. If he fired into the car and she was trying to hit him, the car still would have hit him. I don't know how you can make the argument that that's not the case. So those are all the facts that I'm currently thinking of. I'm not looking at a sheet. I'm not a professional. This is my layperson's understanding of the situation and of the facts, and my interpretation of people's motives and all that. So that's the Renee Good case, where she involved herself when she shouldn't have. The officer created on his end, exacerbated the situation and created a scenario where he put himself in potential harm's way. He wasn't ultimately in harm's way, but he only helped to make that situation more dangerous for himself, and created a situation where now people are arguing that he was justified in using lethal force when he could have done otherwise, and created a situation that didn't require the use of lethal force. So, is there anything there that you want to add on to or respond to or amend? I don't know how closely you've been following the Renee Good situation.
You covered. I wish I could have been following it more closely.
Okay, that's okay.
We're both adults. Politics is unfortunately not our lives. We're not news people in any official capacity. We have our own jobs that we work, and there's I wish.
Hey, you're fine. You're fine. I hope that I've given you a pretty good picture of like the gist of it.
I always want to have some sort of qualifier, because there is always the room for me to have read something and not remembered it correctly, or thought that I read something but I really didn't.
Yeah.
But I think you've hit on basically every major point.
Yeah.
The one thing that I would like to explicitly say as part of that is during the autopsy that was performed, it was determined that both the first and second shot were non-lethal. It was the third shot that killed her.
Really? Because that was one thing I was wondering about. I never drilled down on that. So it was only the third shot that was lethal.
Unfortunately.
Now,
because that one was, it hit, I believe, a major blood vessel or something.
Yeah. Well, even if the first shot connected enough, that would have just,
Right, which is not to excuse the first two shots.
No. I'm just trying to there's a lot of...
You could have exercised some restraint.
Well, I don't claim to know that. Here's the thing, is that I've not been in situations where I've never fired off a gun, first of all. I've never been in tense situations like that where I might have to fire a gun, right? Like, so I will defer to actual professionals. Like, to me, like, the only group of people that I think would be able to most accurately describe what should and shouldn't happen here would be like police, like people who are trained on how do you not just how to use the firearm, but like when to use it, and also have been in situations where they had to make those split-second decisions. So to straw man, because that's what we do on this channel, we straw man, and we use good logic and reason, not bad logic and reason. I will hear an argument that, you know, from the moment that he fired that first shot, he was in I need to disable mode. Like, if that really was what was going through his brain, I don't think that it was. But if it were, then going from first shot to third shot and not being able to, like, turn that off quick enough. I mean, like, we are looking at this video over and over again and super scrutinizing it, but this all happened within like 2 seconds, right? From first shot to
It was a
third
very
shot.
quick thing.
Right.
But
Like, you can't it's I think it's hard to argue that
when
by the
you,
time he's firing into the side of the vehicle that he should have had the restraint to, like, stop shooting. I would think that he
well,
could have
also,
stopped shooting there,
when
but I
you,
would listen to an
right,
argument that you kind of can't do that.
I would kind of, I'd like to push back on that a little bit because
Sure.
generally, when you're, you know, in panic mode or survival mode,
Yeah.
you're not necessarily angry. I would argue. Do you think that's a fair statement for me to make?
No, I think that you can feel angry and be motivated by anger in a situation like that just as well as you could be
Right, but I
motivated
don't
by
think that
fear. I don't think
I
you would
would
default.
argue.
I don't think you would always default to fear, but I would want to learn more about that.
I would believe that again, if you're in survival mode, that you know, fear for your own mortality would be the primary motivator, right?
Probably. Yeah, I could see that. Like, if you really think that you're going to die, I think you'd be more fearful than you are angry.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, based off of that, you know, premise, why did he call her? And I this is a direct quote, a fucking bitch
Yeah.
when he shot her.
Yeah, I think that that is relevant as well. That, like, that gives you a glimpse into what his mental state was during that event. And so, if you're talking about justification for an action, if you are motivated by vengeance or anger or anything like that, that factors into what your motivation was. Like,
Hmm.
if he was like, if right after that he was like, oh my god, did I just do that, or something of the sort, then, you know, showing some kind of
Right.
remorse, or like snapping out of it and being like, oh man, like, was that a mistake, like, then that would factor differently
What
too.
did I
You'd be
do? What
like,
did I do? What did I do?
oh man, like, he realized right away that he was making a mistake, not that, like, that was all part of, like, what he was intending to do. So,
Hmm. But there was none of that.
right, no, right after that he was like, fucking bitch. And I think that that matters. I don't think it's like the entire argument, but it's a point. Now, something I actually, so I have up the clip. I'm gonna just, oh no, it says content is not available anymore. Let me refresh the search then, because maybe stuff is going down as I'm trying to look for it.
It wouldn't
Content is not
surprise
available
me
anymore.
again.
What is happening?
Well, because think about it. You know, people generally speaking, you know, it's not good business on any
So you
video
think
hosting
YouTube is
website
taking it
to have
down?
videos of people dying. I think
Yeah,
there's some level.
yeah.
I don't want to necessarily leap straight to government censorship,
It's kind of
but
almost what I'm
I would
thinking.
argue there's at least some sort of YouTube something going on. I mean, I wouldn't. It wouldn't surprise me, but I don't want to leap straight to that. You know what
Yeah,
I
I'm.
mean?
Yeah, we're not going to assume anything. Okay, it's just, it is interesting. Kind of glad that I captured that on this video. So, something that I want to mention before we move on from Renee Good is that after this happened, I mean, like, pretty quickly I was like, okay, I see this as being. I don't have to even use the word murder. Like, I think you could make that argument, but it's at very least an unjustified killing. Um, and I was, you know, looking up videos, debating the other side to just hear what it is that they're saying, like, what it is that they're trying to use to justify. And of course, I always keep up that potential that, like, maybe I have the wrong interpretation and someone's going to say something that I'm going to go, you know what, I think they might be right. It doesn't change, like, my entire worldview, but maybe this killing was justified and I need to see a different argument, different angle, something. So
There
I
could be something.
there could be something. I'll leave open the door because I do care about the truth. So, like, how could I not leave open the door, right? So I was watching a video from Matt Walsh. I don't know if you know Matt Walsh. He's a conservative pundit or whatever.
Matt, why?
No, he's the channel I think to go to when I'm like, well, what is the right saying? Because like he is a loud, strong voice from that side, so it's like that to me is as alt as it gets. I'm not saying that I like agree with anything he's saying. I want to hear what their strongest point. I want to hear what their strongest points are. Is the thing. I want to hear the best that they got, so that I can dismantle
how
it.
How depressing is it that Matt Walsh is that?
I mean, I don't. You know, I'll if you have
be your strongest champion, Matt Walsh.
Matt Walsh. If you have other names in that space, you know, whatever, I'll check them out too. But like, the point is, I went to his video and his comments on this. He was saying things like, oh, because she was going to daycare, she couldn't possibly have had ill intent here, as if that was an argument, right? So that's a straw man, right? That using people mentioning her being a mother as like the defense for her, which it's not. It's just something that people mention as like, hey, if you're going to try to characterize her as like a troublemaker and like where her priorities are at, her priorities are she's a mother, like just to put things in perspective. That's all people are saying. But he uses that as them saying.
And remember, this is.
Go ahead.
Yeah, and remember, this is the party of so-called family values.
Right, family values. So that's one thing that really grinded my gears. Another thing was that, you know, saying all the usual like bullshit talking points that like she's an instigator and she's, you know, possibly paid to do this. Stuff that's just like, are you kidding me? Why would you think that? Why is that always what they go to? Like people, you know, people opposite them couldn't possibly actually believe what they're saying. They must be paid. It's so telling to me. And then the other thing that struck me as just disingenuous is that he kept on referring to. I believe I have this right. If I have this wrong, I'll eat my shorts. But he kept on referring to her wife as her friend, her associate, but not her wife. And it's just like all of this in serving to just try to like to shit on her character and to like to discredit her, to like take away her humanity, and to like. I don't understand why they can't just, in plain terms, describe who are the individuals involved and what their relation to each other was. It's like they can't even accept that like lesbians and gays exist. They're friends. And that to me is just like, if you're trying to get at the truth, maybe try to get all the terms right. That matters. I think that's a non-zero amount of relevance there. That not that whether it's her wife or her friend, but to take her relation to the other person and try to just like shit on it is at the very least bad form. The last thing about it that I can think of.
They were roommates.
They were roommates. They weren't married.
No. That's the joke. Because whenever like archaeologists will like dig up like skeletons in the same like ancient house.
Oh my gosh, they're roommates.
They were roommates.
Yeah. Can't acknowledge that
no, these two were fucking.
Can't acknowledge that homosexuals have existed for as long as humans have existed. The last thing was I kind of alluded to it before. The last thing that her wife says before she pulls away is "Drive, baby, drive," kind of like that. "Drive, baby, drive," like distressed. And to me, it's pretty obvious that she realized that the other agent was trying to get into the car, and she's saying, "Fuck all this other stuff that's going on. Just get out of here. Like I'll be fine." Because her wife couldn't even get into the car. The car was locked on all sides. Her wife couldn't get into the car when she tried. So when she saw the other agent was getting in, she was just like, I can't get in, and I don't want the agents to get into the car." I'm basically paraphrasing. I'm filling in all the blanks. To me, it looks like she was just encouraging Renee to just get out of there. Forget that I'm here. Just go. They're trying to get in. Drive, baby, drive. But Matt Walsh rephrased it. Not rephrased it, but interpreted that tone to be drive, baby, drive, as in run over the agent that's in front of you. Like a command to do damage. And that, I mean, that is just as disingenuous as you can get. Like, unless Matt believed that was her tone, but I think to even believe that, you would have to already have in your head the mechanism ready to spin it and to lie to yourself. That has to be self-deception. Because what's more likely, that her wife was motivated for her wife's safety, or she was more motivated to kill someone at the scene? Who was the one that actually killed someone, right? Because like Renee was the one that was shot in the face 3 times. Right? She had the deadly weapon, right? She had the car. If she really did want to run over an ICE agent, she had the opportunity, but she didn't. And so it's just like, I don't know what else you need to know about this situation, but it should be investigated. There should be a trial, and it shouldn't fall on me to interpret it. It should be on, on
the judicial
lawyers,
system.
on the judicial system. Thank you. And it shouldn't be something
I
that should already be given an angle by the Trump admin before anything has been proven.
Yes. Before we move on to the
Yes.
the additional tragedy of
Yeah,
Mr. Pretti,
the recent tragedy. Yeah,
the most recent,
the most recent tragedy.
shall we say?
Oh my God. Yeah. What do you got?
I would like to point out a statistic. Did you know that as of yesterday, ICE is responsible for 66% of all homicides in Minneapolis?
Wait. Like total? Like over all time?
Yes, 2 out of every 3. Well, for the year, as of this year.
Oh! Come on, that's an important distinction. It's the year just began. Yeah,
of course it is. I'm not trying to say in the history of the city, ICE has murdered. That's
why you got the response you got from me. I was just like, what is this? Well, because
right, but
that's
why I said as of this year.
That is a sad joke statistic that, like, yeah, as of this year, they have most of the homicides. I mean, we're a whole month in, so that is kind of telling. So
yeah, and 2/3 of all murders have been perpetrated by ICE agents.
Yeah. All right. Anyway, so yeah, that was just recently, and then even more recently, within the past, I think it was just Sunday. I think
2 to 3 days.
Yeah, was this shooting of Alex Pretti, and now you know a little bit more about that situation than the first one.
I'm not going to say that. I'm not gonna.
I'm asking. I'm not putting you on. I'm not putting you on the spot to talk about it. I'll go into the same spiel now about him, and then we can talk about.
Yeah, please do. And if anything else, we'll kind of rehash the same thing where you can go and you can give your kind of soapbox. Sounds a little bit.
My interpretation.
Not the most generous way of phrasing that, but you can give. You can have the platform for a bit.
Yeah.
And you can kind of go on a nice little solo about the facts of the situation in as morally neutral tone as possible, and then we can kind of
shortly after
get more morally biased about the unfortunate case.
Trying to help.
Yeah. So my understanding of the case so far is that there was an ICE raid, or I think it was Border Patrol. There was a raid going on. And people were, sounding whistles and everything. This is what everyone's been kind of doing lately, is to just draw attention to it so that people can protect themselves or take action or whatever. And so Alex and this other onlooker, this other woman who was, I believe, also protesting or, getting involved, it was them and I believe something like 6 agents, right? And they, I mean, it's kind of crazy because like everything that I've seen so far is like only like the first like couple seconds leading up to him actually getting killed. They're in the street. this woman got pushed down, and Alex went to go help her. He went to go like help her up and support her. And while he's doing that, the agents started like pepper spraying him. They were starting to spray him in the face with chemicals. And they've been doing this a lot. They've been spraying people in the face even when it isn't necessary. It's like pretty clearly mostly just like an aggressive, violent act rather than like a self-defense act. And so Alex is trying to lift her up, and they're spraying him. And very quickly, they gang up on him, and they tackle him to the ground. And when Alex was approaching the scene in general, right, he's recording with his phone. He has his phone in one hand. He has his hand up in the other. So it's clear that like what his hands are doing. And they approach him. They shove him to the ground while he's trying to help this woman. It's a couple of things all kind of happening in a very short amount of time. They shove him to the ground. They are hitting him. They're trying to, really, I can only say that they're trying to beat him, because with that many people, it doesn't take that many people to apprehend someone. 2 people should be enough. 2 adults to 1 adult should be enough to apprehend that 1 adult. If everyone, all other things being equal, right, that should be enough. But there was at least like 4 or 5, maybe 6 of them. Actually, let me get the number. It looks like there's 1, 2,
So may I?
3, 4,
I'd like to.
5,
I'm on the New York Times right now.
I think it's
right,
6 agents to him.
Right. So.
Oh, you have the details.
Just doing some while you were talking. So I'm gonna read directly from the New York Times.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Which I'm not the world's biggest New York Times fan,
but there's some facts
this
there.
seems to have a relatively well constructed timeline. So we're gonna start the timeline at 48 seconds before the shooting.
I'm going to do the same. You said New York Times.
Right, yeah, New York Times. So if you just search Alex Pretti shooting, then you go to the New York Times article.
Yep.
It'll be that one. So yeah, 48 seconds before the shooting. Video shows a small group of civilians standing in the middle of a street where a person was detained on the ground. Civilians are speaking to federal agents. Mr. Pretti appears to be filming the scene as he walks closer to the federal agents while he is holding his phone. Bear in mind, filming agents is not a crime.
Right.
The agent then shoves 2 civilians from one side of the street to the other, pushing them towards a white SUV.
Yeah.
At 28 seconds before the shooting, for a second time, the agent pushes the civilian with the orange backpack. The civilian falls to the ground near to the white SUV. 25 seconds before the shooting, Mr. Pretti tries to place himself between the DHS agent and the 2 civilians. Footage shows the same agent spraying pepper spray in the direction of Mr. Pretti's face. The agent will later. This is the agent that will later fire shots at Mr. Pretti. Mr. Pretti is holding his phone in one hand, and the other one he is holding his hand up to shield himself from the spray.
Yeah. Yeah, you can see that in the photo.
23 seconds before. Yep. Mr. Pretti appears to be trying to help the civilian with the orange backpack stand back up as the agent continues to pepper spray the group.
Completely unnecessary.
At 17 seconds before the shooting, several agents grab Mr. Pretti, who is still holding his phone. Additional agents approach and try to pin Mr. Pretti to the ground. 11 seconds before the shooting, Mr. Pretti is surrounded by a group of 7 agents, some of whom have wrestled him to the ground. One of the agents, who is wearing a gray coat, gets closer to Mr. Pretti. The agent's hands are empty as he reaches for Mr. Pretti, while the other agents hold Mr. Pretti down on his knees. At the same time, another agent strikes Mr. Pretti repeatedly with the pepper spray canister. 1 second before the shooting, an 8th agent joins the group. The agent in the gray coat appears to pull a gun from near Mr. Pretti's right hip. The agent then begins to move away from the skirmish with the weapon. At the same time, another agent unholsters his firearm and points it at Mr. Pretti's back. The first shot is fired. The agent in the gray coat removes the weapon from the scene. It matches the profile of a gun that the Department of Homeland Security says belonged to Mr. Pretti. Then, while Mr. Pretti is on his knees and restrained, the agent standing directly above him appears to fire 1 shot at Mr. Pretti at close range. He immediately fires 3 additional shots. The diagram below shows the position of the agents, Mr. Pretti, and other civilians at this moment. Additional shots are fired. Several agents have moved away from Mr. Pretti, who has collapsed. Another agent, the same one who shoved the civilians into the street and who pepper sprayed Mr. Pretti, unholsters his gun and fires at Mr. Pretti. This agent also fires additional shots. Together, they fire 6 more shots at Mr. Pretti while he lies motionless on the ground. At least 10 shots appear to have been fired within 5 seconds. By the moment of the 10th shot, the agent who moved away from the weapon, who moved away with the weapon, has crossed the street. Mr. Pretti is the second person to be shot. Okay, so this is now an editorialization of the summary of the event.
So those are the details. I'm glad you pulled that up because I was like, I hate that I'm going to have to talk about it out of depth a little bit. But
right.
Yeah, that is my understanding as well.
If I may...
Yeah, go ahead. You can comment on it, yeah.
So one thing that conservatives love is guns. Open carry, the Second Amendment. You know, it's all about guns, glory, and God. Or God, guns, and country, you know, stuff like that. It's one of their things that they love. So they always say, well, you know, I have a right to open carry this AR-15. I have a right to have, you know, this firearm on me. Well, this was a man who was not doing any violence, who was merely recording an abuse of power by federal employees, who was assaulted with pepper spray in his face. And I would argue that even though he did not retaliate with his firearm, I want to be very clear, Mr. Pretti fired no shots. He committed 0 violent actions before his death.
Yeah.
I argue that he would have been justified to shoot that agent in self-defense. And yet, he exercised an incredible amount of trigger discipline and, you know, emotional restraint, knowing that he was armed. Knowing that he could
just to interject,
and he did not.
Just to interject, by the time he was surrounded, he wouldn't have even been able to respond by defending himself with his gun. You know, he has 2 arms, and there were 6 of them. So it's like,
right, and I understand that, but even I'm making the case that people always say, "Oh, self-defense. I need my gun for self-defense."
I just mean that restraint didn't come into play here. Like, there was, by the time he was actually in danger, he no longer had any kind of opportunity to respond to it. And he wouldn't have pulled out his gun before that time, like, because why would he, right? Like, they're just approaching him. He's not going to just pull out and shoot.
Right, but here's the thing. He could have still at least made an effort for it. Whether or not that effort would have been successful, we cannot.
Yeah, there's no sign that he, like, reached for his gun or anything, right?
Right, he did not, again, that's why I say he exercised a tremendous amount of emotional restraint and trigger discipline, because he didn't even attempt anything.
Yeah.
He didn't even try.
Yeah.
Knowing that he was armed, knowing that he had a lethal weapon on his person, he actively chose to not do anything with it. When I argue he would have been justified to use violence in defense
you
of
could
his
make the
own
case.
personal health. And yet, this man was assaulted, shoved to the ground, beaten, disarmed, and then shot 10 times in 5 seconds.
Yeah. I haven't heard...
In what world is this an administration of justice? In what world is this anything other than wholesale slaughter of an innocent man?
And yet you still have responses from the Trump administration, kind of... I think Kristi Noem got on, and her comment was like, of course it's a tragedy, my heart goes out to his parents, but we can't have people going to a protest with a weapon and and he approached them with a gun.
Why not?
And it's just like, first off, none of that is I don't want to say that's not accurate. It's a distortion of what happened, because did he approach them with a gun on his person? Yes. Did he approach them with the intent to cause harm? There's no indication that he did. So to even try to color him as like he went there with a gun, as if that sentence captures what the intent was. He did no wrong. They surrounded him, they violently beat him, and then they killed him in the street without need.
Because remember, let's flash back to a couple of years ago. Kyle Rittenhouse showed up armed to a protest, murdered people, and was lauded as a patriot and an American hero.
Yeah.
This man shows up armed, kills nobody,
Yeah.
goes and tries to come to the aid of people whose rights are being violated,
And
and
then
is decried as
and then they're smearing him.
American scum.
Yeah. Yeah. The example of Kyle Rittenhouse is like so vividly contrary. Like it's such an example of their two-faced thinking. Not two-faced thinking, but their
Duplicitous.
well, no, hypocrisy. The fact that they would get behind him and be like, Second Amendment right, he went there, he defended himself, and, he should be, held as a hero. When he, like, even if, we don't have to say whether or not it was murder, but he did kill people, right? He went with a gun, and he did end up killing people.
I don't think that's what murder is.
No. Killing in self-defense is not murder. Murder is an unjustified killing. So you might be able to argue that point, but the fact of the matter is he did kill people with a gun, and that much didn't even happen here. Like you said, Alex didn't even fire off his gun. There wasn't even any indication that he was planning to, and he was killed. He was like, I don't know what you could possibly really do to defend this. And it's not like, and the point here, the takeaway here is not even necessarily, oh, look at these two examples. The entire Trump admin, this was all wrong, and nobody should have ever voted for Trump. I mean, I will make that case separately, but the point here, the takeaway here, is that there needs to be accountability, and there isn't. At the very minimum, that is that we have to understand here. And that's not happening. And it's very telling. It says a lot about this administration.
'Cause I thought Trump was the law and order president.
The law and order president.
Like, it upsets me so profoundly. And I was talking to my mom about this, if I may pontificate.
Yeah, go ahead. I've talked a lot.
Mom was asking me about stuff earlier, and I flat out told her, I think bad things are on the horizon. I genuinely do. And she goes, well, do you think what happens if the Democrats win the next election? And I go, nothing will change, because the Democrats have no spine. The Democrats are there to appease people and they are there explicitly to be the lesser of two evils option, to say, and I'm going to make a gross generalization here. Republicans will say, hey, let's kick people in the head 3 times a day. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, kicked in the head. And Democrats will go, whoa, 3 times a day. Let's not kick people in the head 3 times a day. Let's kick them in the head once a day, just at lunch.
Just once.
No big deal. I'd prefer no head kicking.
Right. Why?
Everyone's like, whoa, come on, be reasonable. You need some head kicking.
You got to meet in the middle.
Now get back in line. Yeah, exactly. So the Democrats are there purely as a foil to lessen the monstrousness of the Republicans. And I flat out told her, I was like, I don't think electoralism is going to solve this. We are on a path, and I try to not, exaggerate. I try to not.
You're trying not to be a doomer.
But I genuinely believe we are on the path to a civil war. It gives me.
I worry that too.
It gives me genuine chills, because how can we exist as a unified country where I'm going to say half, but it's less than half, because only about 30 to 40% of the country I would say is Republican, and that's why the Electoral College sucks. But I digress. But I'll say half. Half the country actively has contempt and hates the other half.
Yeah.
And that's the difference between people like me and people like them. I may not like Republicans. I might want them to get as far the fuck away from me as possible. But you know what? I still want you to have health care. I still want you to leave, a good and fruitful and peaceful and productive life. Republicans look at people like me, look at people like Mr. Pretti, and say, I want you dead.
Yeah. It seems that way.
And how can we exist as a nation when half the people are like, I might not like you, but I still want you to have an okay quality of life.
Yeah.
And the other half says, I hate you and I want you to be in the fucking ground. I want you to be worm food.
Yeah, there's a couple of things that I want to mention about that, but
Like,
if you have more,
how can we do that? And I was telling Mom, I'm like, it's becoming more and more like that. I kind of made a joke about this years ago, but I'm giving more and more serious consideration of buying a gun.
yeah, I think I'm gonna buy a gun too. I gotta I have a lot of things on my to do list, but
Because
I do consider getting a gun.
well, again, if you are, I've fired a gun a couple times. I've gone rifle shooting at different ranges. So if I was going to own a handgun, I would need personally to go and have some level of instruction and training in its use.
Yeah, of course.
Care and all that other stuff.
Yeah, no, I
know
have
how to fire a rifle.
I have no moral opposition to owning
What?
a gun. My stance on gun rights is or the way that I approach
Mr.
it.
Pretti had them. I was exercising them.
My approach is that, like, as it stands today, Americans have the right to own firearms, and so go ahead. Like, that is the law. Like, even if I think that it's problematic and we should change that, it's legal today, so go ahead and exercise your right. I think that, like, there should be a conversation about it, and I think that it could be improved, even if I don't think that we're ever going to take away guns. I don't think that we need to. I mean, something should be done, but I don't think that it needs to be that we should take away all guns, and I don't think that that's even feasible. So it's not even something that I think about. But I think that we should be having better conversations about gun regulation. And what we're not doing is having better conversations about gun regulation. And that feeds into what I do want to talk about more, to maybe like to cap this video. Why we are so divided.
Okay, let's move into the.
Yeah, this is the post credits.
Ooh, that's.
In fact, for this, I'm going to put up on the screen conservative liberal, or I guess Democrat Republican distribution. Republican distribution. America. Because this is something that is like not like a one-off. Like, basically, throughout the U.S.'s entire history, we've been a very divided nation. Would you agree? Urban and rural differences. I don't know if that's exactly it.
I would say.
I mean, we had a civil war halfway into this country's history.
Right. But so I would argue that we had kind of like maybe a U-shaped divisiveness, or maybe a parabolic one, where we started off with a certain level of divisiveness or unity, depending on how you want to graph it, and then we have the Civil War, which is like the lowest possible, the highest possible division, right?
Yeah.
And then from there, things got better.
But you think of civil rights, like that was not easy. You know what I mean?
This is good. It wasn't easy.
Yeah. No, we've been making progress, but I'm just saying it was dragging the other side the entire time, tooth and nail.
Right. And I would argue that part of that, or at least a significant portion of that, is due to economic reasons.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that lead into it.
You don't have to pay your slaves to farm cotton and farm tobacco. So your profit margins are huge, and that's why you can afford these giant, plantation mansions. But all of a sudden, when you have to start paying your workers, well, shit. What do I do?
Yeah, it was disruptive.
Another argument.
You could even argue that it was disruptive,
Yeah,
and there might have been a better solution for that, where it's like we accounted for the fact that we're going to be disrupting the economy. But we needed equal rights. Like, that had to happen.
Of course, absolutely. But so things did get better, and then I feel like in the past, I want to say 30 years, because like I don't know if you feel the same, because you're not that much older than I am. You're only older than me.
Yeah, you're like, we're talking about 30-year time spans. You're like, well, you're a year older than me, Matt. Like,
right, but here's the thing. When we were kids,
sure.
Right? And granted, we were kids. We didn't have a real perception of the world, of what was going on. So,
right.
Take my statement with an entire shaker of salt. But, like, do you remember things being this bad?
No, I think it has gotten worse over our lifetime. We have become more divided. I believe that is true. And I think that that's partially... Okay. So here's let me say some things. there were the slavery thing. That created an initial divide, and then its repercussions, like even the resolution of that, had other repercussions. Like it continued to be a divide, but it's changed and it's softened in places, and like so that divide kind of became less because like
Yeah.
things have gotten better in some ways and worse in others, I guess is what I'm saying. It's less about like blacks having equal rights, and it's more so about like immigration today, where I feel like 50 years ago it wasn't like that. So there was an initial divide. I think that the recent divide, well, I should say no. The initial, I'm sorry, I'm going back and forth. The recent divide is because of the media. I think that has kind of exacerbated things. We're more interconnected, but also we have better echo chambers, and so people can stew a little bit more. Now, I agree. I believe that my position is right and equitable, and that I am searching for the truth and want the best for all people. I think that my position is a good one, and I think it's the normal good person position. But the right would say the same thing about theirs, right? But I think that what differentiates us is that, well, we can go into that another time about what differentiates us, because that's a whole entire podcast. But what made things worse in the beginning, and it's still bad now, and I think you're going to agree with me, is our voting system is making it worse. The two-party system is keeping us divided, and if anything, it's making it worse as time goes on. If we had a different voting system,
I would be foolish to argue that.
You'd like to argue that?
No, I'm saying I would be foolish to argue that, like, oh, this is clearly the best way of doing it. No, of course you're right.
Okay. Yeah. And to just kind of say briefly, is that a two-party... First off, I believe the founders discouraged a two-party system. And in fact,
they didn't
parties.
discourage political parties at all.
I misspoke. Yeah, they discouraged political parties at all. And yet we're doing it. And with a two-party system, people inevitably get into camps, and they side with their team, and it makes it hard to... It encourages extremist views. There's less of a representation in the middle, right? I mean, that's not controversial to say. But the reason why there's a two-party system is because our voting system... It's a consequence of our voting system. We have first past the post. We have a plurality system where you it's just whoever gets the most votes. So even if you had four parties, and you had 10%, 20%, 30%, whatever, like you had little percentages. But then one party had a 40% of the total vote. That party would win. That representative would be in office, even though they didn't get the majority vote. And so you have most of the country didn't want them. And what we see now is that these other parties besides Democrat, Republican don't even really exist. They're there, but no one ever believes that they would win. So in what sense do they really even exist if you know that they're not going to win? But if you were to have, there's a bunch of other really good systems that you could use, and all of them do a better job of representing people's views than a plurality voting system. That's what it would take if we changed nothing else in this country. If we changed the way that we voted for our representatives, we would slowly heal the problem. You would open up the door for people in the middle to represent the normies, and they would have good support. And you couldn't just get away with being an extremist on the left or the right. And honestly, I think that we would just naturally go more progressive, because like the Republican Party is basically a rock in the shoe. Like, we can't have nuance in politics because the Conservative Party is so... Like, they are very cohesive. And I think that's the reason why, honestly, most of the time when you talk about other voting systems, conservatives are less enthusiastic about it because they like the deal that they have. They love their party. That's why they're so goddamn loyal to it. You talk to Democrats and they're like, yeah, I vote Democrat, but What other choice do I have?
Mhm.
So I think that if you were to change the voting system, I like ranked choice voting. But I was learning about some other ones the other night, and star voting sounds really good. I don't know if you know about either of these.
No.
So ranked choice voting, you basically have multiple people on the
Yeah,
ballot.
I know ranked choice. So what's the
Oh,
star
I
voting?
asked you if you did. Okay, sorry. I guess the delay. The star voting is you start off, there's two phases, right? You vote once, but the way you vote is that you have multiple people on the ballot and you give them a score from 0 to 5. And then you cast your vote that way, right? And then the way that they're tallied is that first, all of the candidates get their average score based on all of the ballots. And the first, like whoever has the two people that are at the top go into the next round. The others that didn't get as much just drop off. And then those two that got the highest scores on average go into another phase where each ticket goes to one of those two based on who had the higher score. Now, the reason why it goes into two phases is that, first off, the first phase, you just get rid of all the losers, right? Whoever just didn't get very much support in general, they just drop off. And the two top competitors go into another round where if one person gets a lot of really high scores, but not very many of them, but another person has broad support, there's no like sycophants, there's no like, oh my god, I would suck his dick, right? But they have a lot of people that at least thought that they were okay. That would shine through in the second round because they would just win more of those tickets. And I think that that's healthier. I think if you want to get, you'd rather really get more people at least a little bit on board rather than have a couple people that would die for a candidate, because that doesn't really shine as well to me. I think that that's not as healthy, that you have like a divisive sort of candidate. So the star system, it's more involved, but it gets like it's the best at representing how people actually feel as a populace. And so I think
Okay,
I think
okay.
it's the
I
superior
give it an
system.
interest in that.
I would be good with either ranked choice voting. Ranked choice voting is still very good. We don't have to go into it here. It's still very good. I'd be happy with that over what we have. But star voting, if we can get it, would be the best, the most democratic system for electing someone.
Okay, I'm sympathetic to learning more about that. Well, no, because it's something that I haven't
You haven't
so,
looked into it yourself, yeah.
you giving me the Cliff Notes version.
I hope it was a good Cliff
as
Notes.
much as I love and respect you, like I still want to do my own thing and be like,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah, yeah.
so
I'm just giving
examples
you.
of this,
I'm just giving you the synopsis. You go ahead and look it up more yourself. I'd love to hear your thoughts later.
Yeah, but it sounds appealing. I will say it
Yeah,
sounds
it's
very
got
appealing.
strengths. It's got strengths. No voting system is perfect. Like there's drawbacks or costs to each. But really, the only thing with the star voting system, the only drawbacks are that it would be more costly to implement. Like it's more complicated of a system, and besides the fact that people haven't heard of it really, it's more confusing. Like people might not feel like it's as good at capturing like their vote. They might be like,
we
"This
both
is a
know feelings
goofy."
are very important.
Feelings are important. Hey, I mean, like you're changing the way people vote. Like you want to have support. You want people to be like, "No, I get it. This is better. Like I'll do it. Like if it's going to be good for the country, sign me up."
Right, yeah.
But I want to understand why it's good for the country. I don't want you to just shove this on me and tell me, "Eat it. It's good for you."
Yeah. Okay.
I was gonna make a really bad
No,
joke, but we're gonna just no really bad jokes
We're gonna-
today.
Yeah, we're gonna. I feel like we've had a pretty decent. We've covered a good amount of ground.
Yeah, that was a lot. Yeah,
I feel this might be a decent place to cut this discussion at least specifically.
yeah, I think that's a good place to stop. Yeah, no, I'm with you. We covered a lot of ground. I don't want this to be
Because
overly bloated.
I'm getting heart palpitations.
Oh, are you okay? just it's a tense subject.
Yeah, no, I'm fine. It's again because I get passionate about
I know.
politics.
I know.
Because I genuinely, I was raised, and maybe we can touch on this for a second because we always have to have the last word somewhere be
Yeah. This is from the heart, man. Like
because
close us
you
out.
mentioned that your mom. You know that your mom you mentioned to me is more conservative, and
Yeah.
your family is more Trump like. So I don't know if this was the case for you, but when I was growing up, as a young boy, my mom and my dad always said, you want to be kind, you want to be compassionate, you want to help those who are less fortunate than you are. You want to, again, at the risk of incurring your wrath, live a biblically good life. Love thy neighbor, clothe the naked, feed the hungry.
I understand the sentiment.
Good, stuff like that. And to me, that's what America is about coming together and lifting up the least fortunate among us in order for us all to come together and build something truly marvelous.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's the perspective that was, imparted to you sort of growing up in a more conservative household. But
well, I just will say that
we all.
Well, I'll just say that, like, growing up, we didn't even talk about politics in the house. And maybe that's why for until a year or two ago, I was apolitical, was because I just wasn't. We didn't talk about these sort of things. I don't even really know what my dad's views were when he was around. I know about my mom because we've had conversations as of late, but they did not push that on me, and I actually appreciate that. They didn't preload me with political beliefs in the same way that they kind of didn't preload me with religious beliefs. They asked that I went to church and that I completed my sacraments, so that those were under my belt, and so that if I continued to be a believer in the future, there was nothing that was missing in that. And I get that why that they did that, but they left me the choice to decide for myself. And same thing here. And that has shaped me in a positive way, I believe, to be a free thinker.
And it's funny you kind of mentioned being preloaded, because I remember being very young and my Uncle Rich came to visit. My Uncle Rich lives in Texas. And he's a great guy. I'm not going to say a single bad thing about him. He's one of my favorite family members, even though I barely get to see him.
Sure.
But I remember talking to him and I was like, I think that Bill Clinton is a great president. And I was like fucking 8. And he's like, do you believe that, or do your parents believe that?
Ooh. That's a good question.
And I was like, well, I believe that. He goes, come back to me later. Come back in a few years.
And that stuck with you.
And Uncle Rich, I'm fairly certain, is at least a moderate, because he has a lot of money. Uncle Rich, lives up to his name. He has a significant, stockpile.
He's doing well.
Because he runs an incredibly successful home security business. He has so much money that he is on track to set a Guinness World Record for the largest private collection of ice cream trucks. Because he buys ice cream trucks.
Oh my God.
Has so much money. The man has so much fucking cash that he buys vintage ice cream trucks.
That's some money. He's doing well. Can you get me a Choco Taco? Choco Tacos.
Maybe, but yeah, he asked that question, and if you would ask me that today, hey, how do you feel about Bill Clinton? And I would say something very similar, but very different. I would say I think Bill Clinton is the best Republican president ever had.
You would have an informed opinion today, whereas before you were basically just echoing your parents. You still there? I think we lost Anthony. Oh.
No.
Oh, okay.
I don't think so.
Oh, sorry. It was more of a silence than I've heard so far. But yeah, I think that's a good place to end it. And I definitely want to have more conversations like this. I actually could go on for another 2 hours, but we should take.
2 hours. I can't take 2 hours.
We should take a break, and it would be a better video if we picked a good place to stop.
If we did.
This is.
So
I think
do we
want
to set up an actual schedule for this? Do we want to actually do a monthly kind of thing?
I don't. You know me. I don't do obligations, but I'll just say that where my heart is I want to have more of these in the future. So feel free to nag me a little bit if you're like, Matt, when are we doing another one? Because I do want to get more of these. I have a lot more to say.
I prefer at least a slight. Yeah, I prefer at least a slightly rigid schedule. It doesn't have to be every Thursday. 7 p.m. No, because life happens.
Let's say
2 episodes a month or something like that.
Yeah, let's say we should try to do these at least twice a month. Is the cadence that I'm feeling I want to do. So I have so much more I want to talk about, and I want to have some big, like, more general discussions about, like, what should a government be? Like, that is an important question that I want to define very well.
Ooh, that's
Yeah, yeah.
okay.
And things like, why do people disagree, and like how do you get someone to think differently? Like, not that, like, how do you brainwash someone or how do you get them to know that you're right, but like how do you find an agreement and how do you reach
What is
the
the
truth?
science of persuasion?
All this stuff, man. So we're gonna end the podcast there. We're gonna stay on the line, obviously, and chat and stuff. But yeah, thank you,
Yeah,
anyone
'cause
that's
I
watching
need
this.
a
I hope
outlet
that you
there.
see that Anthony and I are coming from the heart, and that we really do care. None of this is like political. Like, our side has to win. Like, I don't care. I don't want this party. I would rather these parties vanish and like a new political landscape appear. That's my thought on it. I care about the truth, not politics.
Yeah, where I come from, people like, oh, you're a liberal. I'm like, where I come from, liberal is a slur. Don't you fucking call me a
Don't
liberal.
you dare! You commie bastard!
You call me a leftist or a communist, like a fucking man.
All right, man. Thank you, watcher.